100 mark this season. But superstar Tony White has been a beacon. He's driving for the SEC scoring title. We're in Knoxville, where the Vols will be hard-pressed to keep their streak alive against league champion Kentucky, next on USA. The Kentucky Wildcats are already the champions of the SEC, the 36th time that school has been on top of the league. It is not a championship year for Tennessee, but when the Volunteers play at home against the Wildcats, the fans want blood because this is the game of the year in Knoxville as far as they are concerned. We're live at the Stokely Athletic Center on the campus of the University of Tennessee, and USA Sports presents College Basketball 86. Tonight, live from Knoxville, the Wildcats of Kentucky take on the Volunteers of Tennessee. Good evening and welcome to Courtside. I'm Bob Carpenter along with Bucky Waters. It's an exciting evening here, Bucky, in Knoxville, and it's very simple. The fans here don't like the Wildcats too much, but they've beaten them 12 of the last 13 times in this building.
Kentucky does that to everybody in the SEC, but this place thinks they have a jinx. I don't believe in jinxes, neither does Eddie Sutton. He's got a ball club that's loose. It's obviously the best team in the league, but Tennessee can turn their whole season around with a big win tonight.
Don DeVoe doesn't believe in jinxes either. He says, hey, we have played well here over the last couple of years, and there's no jinx about that. Now, you have been able to see firsthand how relaxed this Kentucky team is under Eddie Sutton after clinching. This was to be the final home game at the Stokely Athletic Center, but maybe the new building will be ready next year. Maybe it won't. But it's the Volunteers at home to take on their rivals, the Wildcats of Tennessee, tonight here on USA. We'll have a look now at the starting lineups for the ball game tonight. Kentucky comes in as the number 5 team in the nation, 24-3. Kenny Skywalker, the 6'8 senior, the number 3 all-time UK scorer. He's shooting 56% from the field. Winston Bennett, 6'7 junior, the man who compliments Walker to the tune of 13 a game. James Blackman is a 6'3 junior. He's warming up late in the season, hit 60% from the field last week. Ed Davender, a 6'2 sophomore guard, number 1 in steals and number 2 in assists. And one of the great assist men in the nation, Roger Harden, needs 4 to be the all-time UK assist man. And he also has 2 game-winning shots at the buzzer this year for Eddie Sutton in his first year at Lexington. 366 career wins now for the former Arkansas Razorback coach. Tennessee, Mark Griffin, a freshman out of Union City, 6'8", aggressive along the baseline. Rob Jones is a 6'7 senior. A new record for UT appearances with his 128th game here this evening. Mike Johansson's a 6'9 senior, doesn't get to start much. He's in there because he's a senior in his last appearance at home. Had 11 against Kentucky last year. Elvin Brown, a 6'5 freshman, originally from the Virgin Islands via Elizabethton, Tennessee. And the Wizard, Tony White, the 6'2 junior, the number 1 scorer in the SEC at 22 points a game. An exciting performer for Don DeVoe in his 8th year here in Knoxville. And Don has a very good record against the University of Kentucky. He's 9-7. They've won 7 straight here and 12 of the last 13. Those are the lineups. We'll have more and the tip-off next. Tonight's SEC game is brought to you by Ford and your local Ford dealer, who invites you to see the 86 Ford cars and trucks. Have you driven a Ford lately? Buy Levi's 501, the only jeans that shrink to fit you and you alone. Levi Button Fly 501 Blues. By Toyota, who reminds you to get more from life, so buckle up. Who could ask for anything more? By Budweiser, Beechwood Age for that distinctively clean, crisp taste. And by Redman Chewing Tobacco. The Redman reaction is satisfaction. Well, here in Knoxville, they like to read newspapers while the opposing team is being introduced. They figured the events of the world are more important than the visiting team. Maybe they are, but when it's Kentucky coming to town, Bucky Waters, it's a bit of a different story around here. And Tennessee, with a record of 12-13, as we look at the matchups, 5-11 in the SEC, they can salvage a lot from the season by winning here tonight.
These two teams really reflect the SEC this year. They're small. Kentucky is a very, very fine small team. And, of course, the Volunteers have struggled. But they reflect the fact that in the league this year, there hasn't been dominant big men or even power or towering front lines. It's been a guards league. It's been a forwards league. And everybody's trying to get their act together right now to head into Lexington and the SEC tournament.
There's the record we talked about here. The all-time series, though, belongs to Kentucky. Since 1910, the Wildcats lead it 105-35. It's Kenny Skywalker against Rob Jones, and Roger Harden has it for the visiting team. Tennessee opening up with a man-to-man on D. It is James Blackman on top to Davender. He's matched up against the Wizard, who gave himself that nickname.
Yes, he did. Off of Gus Williams on television.
Here's Walker stripping the ball underneath. Davender saves it nicely, or rather Davender from Blackman, and now Blackman with the jumper. So James Blackman, the 6'3 junior out of Marion, Indiana, kept the ball alive, and he was the one that finished off the play.
Davender starting on White. Kentucky, of course, in man-for-man, Eddie Sutton's version of it, which is pretty doggone good.
A lot of people think that even though Kenny Walker may not have the offensive stats everybody expected this year, as you see a steal by Winston Bennett and a fast break by Blackman, but he traveled. Double dribble at least. Bucky, Kenny Walker does not have the offensive stats this year. Some people thought he would, but many feel that under Eddie Sutton, he has become a complete basketball player.
Much more valuable to the NBA by what he's demonstrated this year. They knew about the stats, and I'm not sure about that double dribble either. He just kind of piggybacked it on his leg a little, just maybe a half a step.
Shot won't go off on the left side for Mike Johansson, and a foul on Roger Harden on the baseline.
Johansson, the senior, starting in the last home game for the Volunteers, is not matched up against Skywalker. Good move inside.
Well,
the
look at Alvin Brown get up there.
He had no room, had to edge his way back in, probably charged a little bit, but usually the offensive player gets that call.
Alvin Brown's a 6'5 freshman. Played his high school ball at Elizabethton, Tennessee. 17 points and 10 rebounds, a second-team All-Stater last year. And here he is playing against the number 5 team in the nation.
Don DeVoe said he is not a candidate at his old school Ohio State. I won't run if asked, or however that goes. If
nominated, I will not run. If elected, I will not serve.
Good, very good.
And the big rumor at Ohio State, where I was last night, was that in the next day or so, Eldon Miller would be the new head coach at Northern Iowa.
Musical chairs this time of year.
Winston Bennett can't get it down. Rebound by the freshman Mark Griffin, and here come the Vols. You're watching the Wizard. Here's Harden on the transition. 3-on-1 for the Cats. And Davender took a little stutter step there and traveled with it. Couple of turnovers early for Eddie Sutton's team on the road.
The great penetrating ability of the Wizard, Tony White, can be a two-edged sword, because when he gets down in there deep, Tennessee has to be concerned about defensive balance, because the Wildcats like to run, and they do it well.
2 freshmen in the starting lineup. There's a freshman to a senior, and Johansson just traveled.
Don't tell me he didn't hear footsteps from Kenny Skywalker coming behind him.
Johansson averaging 0.7 and 0.2 rebounds in 6 games this year. But he had a great game at Kentucky last year. He was the second leading scorer in the contest with 11 points and 6 rebounds. Getting the start because it's his final home appearance. Here's Davender for Walker. Kicks it back outside. Ed will take the jumper. Little short with it. And then the offensive foul on the back of Griffin was Kentucky's Winston Bennett, the 6'7 junior out of Louisville.
The hitman, Winston Bennett, plays about 7'2".
Kenny Walker's happy he's around, isn't he? He's taking some of the pressure off the Sky Man. Here's Griffin against Blackman. Tony White, baseline right. Ball stripped away. but he was the last one to touch it. Excellent defense by Ed Davender. Gave him trouble, and then when he followed through with the shot, the turnover.
From the New York area where Davender comes from, you don't take him in and post him up. Tony White tried to embarrass him, and he got a flash of a little bit of temper there from Davender.
Here's Roger Harden, Mr. Clutch for the Cats. His bounce pass to Walker on the floor along with Griffin, and Kentucky has it. Davender trying to drive in. Now it's Bennett open. He hits it too short, and the Volunteers come up with it. That looked like a rugby scrum in there.
Nobody could put a fork in it. How about that for your All-American? On hands and knees, and he doesn't do windows either.
2-2 the score. We're 3 minutes in.
This start very important for the Vols. They're not a confident team right now. They need to get this crowd. They need to get their own confidence up.
Johansson forcing one up. He had Walker all over him.
His 4th shot of his senior year.
You know, he not only could not get a good shot, Walker didn't even let him pass the ball to anybody because he didn't want to shoot the ball. Blackman on top for Winston Bennett, about 10 feet from the hoop with the turnaround. Hit it to the right, but Walker is there for the easy 2. Kenny, 45 points and 19 rebounds last week against Florida and Georgia.
3.5 minutes, 4-2, and it's not like they're not trying. A lot of tension in here.
Elvin Brown looking to equalize. Johansson got the rebound. Then the stuff was missed by Brown, but he was fouled. And that freshman is some kind of leaper, isn't he?
Oh, the Volunteers are really on. Johansson just gets that ball up over Sky. And there's the freshman coming in with authority. They are not afraid of Kentucky. I think one of the things that Kentucky uses when they recruit is that everywhere we go, it's a full house, and they're laying for us. And that attracts a certain kind of an athlete. Because you know you've got the pinstripes on, at least in this part of the country. You don't sneak up on people with Kentucky on your chest.
That was foul number 2 on Winston Bennett. Eddie Sutton doesn't want to see him get in foul trouble because that makes things a little bit tougher on Kenny Walker when everybody collapses down on him. Elvin Brown played just 1 year of high school basketball, and he only had 44 dunks.
That's more than I had in maybe 8-9 years of organized basketball.
4-4 the score. We are exactly 4 minutes in. Davender gets away from the Wizard who fouled him from behind. Looked like White reaching around from behind.
The man from Arkansas, by way of Creighton and Oklahoma State. He's been around and he's done it everywhere.
4-4 the score. 4:04 into the first half.
The one big question when it comes to trucks is who? Who gives you a pop?
A big goose egg for the Volunteers from the field so far. Their only points coming on the 4 free throws by Elvin Brown. Couple of turnovers for each team so far, Bucky. It has not been artistic yet.
No, the reason they're not shooting better, both teams have so much skin under their fingernails from the way they're playing defense. It has affected their touch. Significant for the Vols. They are 4 for 4 from the foul line. Kentucky has not gone to the line. And this has been a problem for Tennessee. They've been a perimeter team. They're not shooting enough free throws, and they've made a commitment tonight to get down in there, put pressure on the defense, and get to the free throw line. So far, it looks good.
Ed Davender on top against Tony White.
Don DeVoe staying with Johansson in what we thought would be a cameo.
Ooh, nice little double pump by Kenny Walker, who left the floor, saw Mark Griffin doing the same, and then just lofted it right over him. The All-American has 4. Interesting to watch this matchup tonight, Bucky. Davender trying to control Tony White. He's done so thus far, but all 6 points for the home team coming from freshman Elvin Brown.
Well, the game plan is very obvious, and Tony White is trying to execute it. They're trying to go down inside, as we said, put some pressure on the defense, get on the foul line.
And that indicates to you how bad their road record is. They're 11-3 at home and 12-13 on the year. So they're 0-9 away, and then the balance of that is on neutral courts. So they've been unable to win on the road this year, but they've been a very good team at the Stokely Athletic Center.
And they're especially good here against the Cats.
Davender for Walker, and Kenny is off to a hot start.
Bob Carpenter, he threw that ball down. From 6 feet away, he threw it down.
Well, we don't know if he'll be able to catch Goose Givens. He now needs 154 points for number 2 on the all-time Kentucky list, but he is firmly entrenched as number 3, and he's 260 away from Dan Issel.
It'll take a long run in the NCAA, of which Kentucky is assured, and I think 3 other SEC teams are givens in the NCAA tournament.
And freshman, there's the senior sitting down. Nix out of Fort Walton Beach, Florida. Very young Tennessee team out there with 3 freshmen on the court right now, Bucky.
Well, with Nix in there, the price of rebounding will go up. He's a warrior.
One of those freshmen, Griffin, knocking the ball away on a pass from Davender down deep. Kentucky has checked in Richard Madison, a 6'7", 232 sophomore forward. He missed the Florida game with an inflamed left knee, but he's back in action now, dumping that ball on top to Blackman. Can anybody stop Walker? Yes, sir. Right there it was Rob Jones who got a piece of that shot, but it still belongs to Kentucky.
The other senior, Rob Jones, goes straight up. Now that's experience. Managed to hang up there just long enough. Usually Skywalker just waits till everybody goes down and then shoots it.
Sitting down, Winston Bennett playing with 2 fouls into the ball game. You saw a moment ago Robert Locke, and there's Roger Harden. Davender will take a seat.
Kentucky will rotate different people on the Wizard, Tony White.
5 seconds. Harden had Kenny Walker underneath on the left side of the iron, but chose not to give it to him, and then the 5-second call and the turnover with Tennessee now a chance to get back even at 8. We are almost 6 minutes into a low-scoring first half here in Knoxville.
Harden next in line on White. Now is the time when White may elect to post up.
Underneath, Dyron Nixon. Walker blocked him. Belongs to the Cats. Kenny Walker, his 33rd block of the year.
So far, White very under control, playing point guard to the hilt, really not looking for the shot.
This is Madison against Griffin. Robert Locke fouled by Dyron Nix. Locke was using his hips to rotate a bit. Nix tried to come around him and drew the foul. That is the 3rd team foul against the Volunteers.
If Locke could come on strong at the end of the season, it would be that dimension that Kentucky really lacks, which is that second big body. When they play the Kansas and the North Carolina State teams, it was the difference. They can't match up with that second big body.
Foul on the inbounds play. Robert Locke, the man whistled down. 6'10" sophomore from Reedley, California.
I'm sure Eddie Sutton will live with some fouls of commission from him. The big Californian's been playing a little soft.
No points for Tony White yet, averaging 22 a game, the #1 scorer in the SEC. And there is a 5-second call.
Very strange game, Bob. Yeah, here we have 13 minutes and 24 seconds. It's 8-6, and we're seeing just a little bit of everything. 5-second inbounds, 5-second closely guarded. Not a pretty game.
I think 18-16 is about more what we expected. Kenny Walker receives it down the paint, and evidently he pushed off to receive the pass, so a foul on him, and that's his first.
Well, with all of these calls, and neither team has been able to establish any rhythm. You must remember that a very important part of Kentucky's offense is generated from their defense, from the good pressure. They're a small team, and they need to get out and go.
Davender on Tony White, who tried to pull up with a jumper, and Davender cleaned his clock, but then he couldn't control the ball, and it still belongs to Tennessee. White went up. All Davender did was reach in and got nothing but ball. Well, the Wizard forced it up, but he drew the foul.
I don't believe that call. I think he went right into the defense. He's good at it, but that's not the rule.
Number
We're going to
2
have a
on
chance. All right,
Roger
does
Harden.
he go up straight, or does he take the contact? I think Harden was straight up, and I think the contact came from the offense. But 80% of the time, regardless of the verticality rule and all the emphasis, the instinct is to go with the offense.
Winston Bennett back in. Robert Locke sitting down. Tony White out of Charlotte, North Carolina, a 6'2" junior. who goes 170. He's the number 10 all-time UT scorer.
Not a highly recruited player in high school. One of those players that came and grew and went beyond expectations.
Trying to become the first guard ever to win the SEC scoring title in a Tennessee uniform. The last volunteer to win it was in '77 when Bernard King averaged 26 a game, and we know what he went on to from there. He and Grunfeld in those great days here.
And my old assistant coach, Hubie Brown, is waiting for him to get well. The New York Knickerbockers have sorely missed him, even with Ewing.
Harden or Walker with the turnaround, and Rob Jones got him on the hand. Number 1 on the 6'7" senior.
In there, so far, Kentucky has been able to find Walker inside for College Player of the Year. There's some tough choices there this year. Dawkins, Walker, there are a bunch of them.
Kenny is now 2 points away from his 57th straight double-figure game. And at the defensive end, hustling for the attempted steal in front of Dyron Nix. Tennessee will have it. Kentucky by 2. We're almost 7.5 minutes in.
Look at that quickness. Now, there, a lot of All-Americans this time of the year playing in tuxedos and reading their clippings. He's out there in the passing lane, on the floor, on the glass, wherever you need him.
And Bucky, you know that it hurts Kenny Walker that he's never won a game in this building. He wants this one before he graduates.
And that effort reflects it.
Tony White along with it. Look at Richard Madison ripping down the defensive board.
The last time a Kentucky team won in here, 1978, that team went on to win the national championship. That's what it takes to win in this building.
Davender off to the races, to the glass, and he has his first basket of the night. It's Kentucky by 4, 8 minutes and 3 seconds in.
Davender with a rest back on White. Davender is definitely the best hit man to cover White.
Tony from 17. He's really forcing some shots up right now.
Tennessee has gone away from the inside game that got him on the free throw line, and the drift is now to put their destiny in White's hands.
Blackman looking right at Elvin Brown. Madison for Walker. Little strong with it. Rob Jones. And Walker showed some good restraint there, Bucky. He did not have position for the offensive board. He could have easily gone up and drawn the foul, but he let it go. And now at the other end, his teammates get it right back. Here's a 4-on-3. Left side, Blackman from Davender. No basket. A foul before the shot on Elvin Brown. So Kentucky with a running game that Mr. Waters was talking about earlier.
Eddie Sutton wipes the sweat off his brow. Good pass in here to Blackman. Tries to wedge. The foul is called right there. Boy, sometimes I argue with officials on continuation, but I thought he was fouled as part of the shot on that one.
It sure looked like it. He had left the floor. Cats by 4, 11-12 left, first half. Welcome back to the beautiful hills and mountains of eastern Tennessee. We're in Knoxville at the Stokely Athletic Center, where you can hear Rocky Top played about 28 times during each ball game, but it never seems to wear on you. And so far, it's the Cats of Kentucky on top by 4. Bob Carpenter and Bucky Waters. It's our final Thursday night of SEC basketball for the season on USA. And we'd like to say hello to our friend up east, Jack Rowan, who's probably tuned in tonight. I'd like to thank him for his outstanding work as Bucky and I wrap things up here on a Thursday night. And what do those stats tell us so far? The fouls are still ice cold from the floor, aren't they?
Well, if 1 out of 12 is ice cold, you got it. And Jack Rowan said he really did tire of carrying you this year, but he likes you personally. The old mentor, he was some coach, I'll tell you. Those Columbia teams were very, very tough to beat. Yes, it's 1 for 12 for the Volunteers. Kentucky only 5 for 11. And White has yet to ignite.
Davender for Madison. Blackman working off a pick, was loose. He has it up on top. Here's Bennett. Madison for Blackman. 20 seconds on the shot clock. Back on top to Davender. Walker gets in behind his man. Can't get it off the glass. He got in behind Rob Jones, and then it was only weak side help.
Guy Walker.
Kenny's into double figures now. 57 straight games.
Down court pressure by the Cats,
who lead by 6.
It's not that soft either. 2-2-1, but they're staying after it.
Took Tennessee a lot of time to clear that timeline. Tony White. This is Rob Jones over Walker. Boy, he got that one up and in quickly, didn't he?
Yes, I thought he was going to eat it. You don't put it up around that close to the hoop with Walker. Just did get it over the fingertips.
First time Tennessee's gotten on the scoreboard in a while. We're approaching the halfway mark here in the first half with Kentucky by 4. Madison for Davender. Elvin Brown defensively at the top of the circle. Got a piece of it. Madison walked with it. So the freshman does the job defensively, creating the turnover.
When you look at the shooting for the Volunteers, they have to be delighted just to be around. 1 for 12 at the last time out, but they have gotten to that free throw line. That's 6 for 6, and they're playing even on the boards. This half-court game is not what we expected to see.
Quick move down the left side. And after creating the turnover, the freshman Elvin Brown scores his 8th point of the game. He's got 8 of their 12. Kentucky by 2. Bennett for Walker, knocked away by Rob Jones, but it goes right to Davender.
And unfortunately for Brown, his 3rd foul, and he has played well early for the Volunteers.
So 44 has a seat with 8 points and 3 fouls. Ron Housley into the game out of Marion, North Carolina, 14 in the lower middle part of your screen, a 6'4" sophomore.
In fact, Jenkins has missed the last 9 games, and he still leads the Volunteers in assists and steals. That's how far out in front he was in those vital categories. So when you take that kind of a ball handler, defensive player, stealer, assist person, you really hurt the transition game. And it's been part of the problem that the Volunteers have had in a disappointing season.
Davender knocks them both in. Substitution for Tennessee, Sam Arterburn. Here's a guy who will get down in the dirt and battle you. Griffin will have a seat. Last time we were here, we were ready to put on the armor to keep that guy away from us because he was diving all over the floor.
We'd had to change our license to see if we were zoned for demolition derby.
Here's Tony White. Yes. The Wizard. Brought some rain with that one, but it came right down and hit nothing but net.
The fact that they've just hung around Kentucky's zip code without White scoring has just got to be a great source of confidence for DeVoe and the Volunteers. If he gets hot, they can whip anybody, especially here.
Davender in trouble. Almost lost it.
They're doing his Al Jolson routine. Almost lost it.
Winston Bennett, baseline left, double team. Tennessee's doing a good job inside. Rob Jones trying to front Walker, who got behind him, but missing on the jumper. And the rebound by Arterburn, and the home team comes up with it with a chance to equalize here with 8:15 remaining in the first half. And the Volunteer crowd, on a cue from the coach, getting right back into the game now.
The Union's going to get after DeVoe for cheerleading. He really did egg him on, didn't he? He wants this one badly.
Well, when you're 12-13 and 5-11 in the SEC, and you're taking on the league champions at home late in the season, it's time to make a few things happen. Rebound underneath, and it was Anthony Richardson unable to stuff it in, off the miss by Tony White. James Blackman will check in for Kentucky, and we'll check the action after this timeout. Cats by 2, but Tennessee pressing. Balls in the background, didn't I? Did I imagine that?
Yeah, you really did. I think that whiplash is catching up to you.
Well, here we are with 7:51 remaining. Kentucky by 2, 16-14. Ron Housley for Tennessee against Roger Harden of Kentucky out on top.
The Volunteers went 3 for 4 from the last break, starting to warm up. They've been too tight, trying too hard.
Sam Arterburn got it back from Rob Jones. White trying to work off a pick by Housley that turned into a brick wall.
Boy, Davender's doing a number on White, though.
Richardson dumping it down, and Blackman knocked it away. And here come the Cats as Blackman came up with the steal. Here's Walker, 16-footer. Rebound, Ron Housley.
Didn't look like a smooth shot. He was wide open, well-executed play off the down screen, squared up good. Looked like he forced it a little bit. He doesn't have great range, but I thought that would be comfortable for him.
Richardson, shot fake, up and no, as it was missed there by Housley. Davender on the transition, Blackman left side, and he traveled.
Last year, Blackman would have put his head down and sulked a little bit. Not this year. He's had average games and good games. He's still been a little inconsistent, but no real downers. He's had a good year under Sutton.
We've got 6:40 remaining in the first half. Sluggish offensive performance by both teams. The Cats are not sharp tonight. Tennessee with atrocious shooting early. As Bucky said, still very fortunate to be in the ball game. Arterburn up strong, and the 6'6" sophomore from Paducah, Kentucky, has his first basket. That puts him over his season's average, and we're tied.
And the balls are coming right at the Wildcats, straight up. There are no gimmicks out there. The last time they played zone. This time at home, he's going right at him. Good foul.
Harden.
He was 3-0 against the Wildcats. Beat them home and home, and beat them in the SEC tournament, which has only been activated now, reactivated, 6 years, and we haven't had any repeaters. An ominous figure in those goggles.
Speak for yourself, big guy. That's a dozen for Kenny.
Ooh.
Kentucky by 2.
Straight man pressure now, but it's soft. I think we'll see that full court zone pressure with the double teams. It seemed to bother the Volunteers, but Sutton's mixing it up.
Look at the defense of Davender. Taking it away from Harden, or rather, taking it away from White. Here's Blackman right around Arterburn with the double pump, and he drew the foul.
Well, we talked about the Wildcats generating offense off of defense.
Kentucky, their 34th 20-win season, their 36th outright or sharing of the SEC title, with a conference record of 15-1 this year, leading by 2 on the road. And we're at the 5:43 mark, and the shooting still is ice cold, Buck.
Really amazing. The Volunteers 5 for 19 from the floor, an anemic 26%, and yet they're within 2 points of the nation's #5 team. Both teams playing very hard. Kentucky, of course, is being benevolent. They're shooting only 38%, and therein lies the difference. It's a defensive battle. So far, DeVoe's man for man, I think, would have to go down as a major surprise, because they are playing straight up, no gimmicks, and the Cats are having trouble with it.
James Blackman, who made the defensive play and then drew the foul at the other end with the free throws, has 4. Arterburn breaking the press nicely. He'll take the 15-footer, and somebody hacked him on the way up.
I'll tell you, he's come off that bench. Arterburn has come off that bench boldly, and he is playing. He's bringing the ball up against pressure. He's not afraid to put his body in there. Has been a fine substitution, and as I looked at the pregame notes tonight, he was not listed as one of the more prominent subs. So Don DeVoe playing a hunch, and it looks good.
Played 15 games as a freshman last year before he was benched by a stretch fracture of the foot, and we all know that that is an injury that, if not handled properly, can bother you for a long, long time. How's that for a touch? But it wouldn't fall. Arterburn has 3 in a reserve role. Cats by 3, 5.5 remaining, first half.
At 6'6", Arterburn is playing Harden. That may give Harden a bit of difficulty seeing down in the post, because as we know, Kentucky feeds best from the top of the key, where you don't get weak side help. Oh, beautiful. What a
yes,
pass.
sir. Davender down deep for Winston Bennett. Kentucky has different ways to hurt you. You stop one of them, the other guy will come up and grab you. And that time, Davender got a beautiful assist, and it was the first basket for Winston Bennett. Nothing doing for Tony White from outside.
Watch Davender now fight White not to get the ball back.
Look at Arterburn square up. He got into the paint and got up nicely. The 6'6" sophomore from Paducah has 5.
Tennessee has to be pleased. White has been taken out of the game, and yet they're within 3 points of the Cats. You just know he's going to explode.
Walker on the pivot. Harden. This is Blackman in the right corner. Harden traveled with it. Just kind of scooped the ball along with him for a step or two.
Good call.
You know, you figure Roger Harden needing only 4 assists to become the #1 all-time Kentucky setup man. Figured he'd have that in the first 8-10 minutes of the game, but I'm not sure he has one yet.
Well, Kentucky's only 5 for 13 from the floor, so it's pretty hard to get assists with that kind of shooting.
Now a Tennessee turnover. We'll get our first look tonight at 14, Paul Andrews. We've got some busy things for you at halftime. Joe Dean of the SEC will join us. He's an entertaining gentleman. The Wall Street Journal late night news, and then we'll have first half highlights and stats for you. Bucky's expert analysis will embellish that. There's the drive by Blackman. The rebound, Housley will come down with it for Tennessee.
And again, Arterburn at 6'6", coming from the weak side. That was an altered shot, thanks to his alert defense.
Housley threw up a prayer, unanswered. Davender almost got caught messing around with the ball. Here's Blackman.
If you believe all prayers are answered, you also have to believe that sometimes the answer is no, and that was one of the times.
That's only when you ask the wrong question.
Well, we also have continuing education in theology, and that's good. So, I think you do hear tennis balls.
the Wizard, his second right there.
The Wizard cannot get untracked. He has been wearing an additional blue jersey from the time this game has started. A rotation of Kentucky Wildcats, but mostly Eddie Davender, this man on the D.
You and I were standing next to the Wizard on the court during practice, Bucky, and if he's 6'2", so are you and I. And I'm not listed that tall.
No, he's definitely had it padded a little bit. He's a heck of a player, but he's not 6'2". Eddie Sutton said, "I like my guards, but Tony White's the best in the SEC." That's a quote.
Davender has a half dozen. Cats by 5, 24-19. The biggest advantage in this half has been 6. It was Arterburn on the post pattern to Rob Jones, but the pass was ruled incomplete. It'll be 1st and 10 for Kentucky under their own basket.
Dan Marino would have been proud of that one. That was a frozen rope at about 80 feet. You need a bigger mitt to handle that one.
Davender for Walker. There's the steal. Arterburn bounce pass. And Davender leads a 4-on-3 counter-attack here. Do you think we'll be talking a little fundamentals in the locker room at halftime tonight?
Both coaches have to be pleased with the effort. It just seems neither team can get any kind of momentum.
Blackman keeps it alive for Walker. Andrews for Winston Bennett. He switched that ball to his left hand and almost got it down. Finally controlled by Ron Housley of the Volunteers, who with any kind of run here could have a good lead in this first half, but they've been atrocious offensively. Kentucky has been most disorganized, and it's a 24-19 score with 2.5 minutes remaining in the first half.
Bennett doing a job on Rob Jones underneath as well. Excellent defense in this game.
Yeah, Tony White was skating around there looking for a pick and just couldn't get one.
Somebody better send a wake-up call for White.
10 seconds on the shot clock. Arterburn baseline left. At least that's where he was headed. And Blackman stripped it away. The fastest hands in Eastern Tennessee knocked that one out of bounds. Arterburn will lead. Good effort for him. He scored 5 while he was in there. The freshman, Mark Griffin, is back in at 6'8", 210.
I got to believe Arterburn is just going to do a cameo on the bench because he made a tremendous difference in the Tennessee team.
3 seconds on the shot clock. Housley gets it away. Look at Walker. That's why they call him Sky. But he lost control on the floor. This one belongs to Tennessee.
That has to be a walk, though. It's a great effort by Skywalker, but it has to be a walk when you roll over that way. Boy, he spent some time on the floor. We're talking blue collar. Fearless. Look at his smile. I'm smiling, but it's not funny. Wow. And the reason I can move around like that is I don't carry my scrapbook with me. I am a player.
Richardson underneath after Madison gambled and lost. And Anthony Richardson, a 6'6 junior from Goldsboro, North Carolina, has his first basket. 3-point game with 1:45 remaining before intermission.
Richardson, another one of the double-figure scorers back from last year that has not had the good year. Been playing on the perimeter, and he's an inside player. Has not made a good adjustment.
Davender against Tony White. Andrews. Winston Bennett with a turnaround. Rebound, Rob Jones, and a foul on Kenny Walker. I talked earlier about Walker's restraint. That time it looked like a rather unnecessary foul by Kenny, Bucky, because he was clearly beaten for rebounding position.
Watch Walker now follow his shot. Soft off the rim. He had a little piece of that ball. Rob Jones had a bigger piece, and he goes to the line.
Number 2 on Sky Walker at 6'8", 210. Out of Roberta, Georgia. And you're looking at Rob Jones out of Knoxville. He played at Austin East High School here. A new UT record. He surpasses Michael Brooks this evening with his 128th game. 69 straight starts. But you've got to hit the front end of those one-on-ones when you're behind. Madison for Walker. Kenny did not have a good angle to receive that pass. We've got 1 minute remaining, and Tennessee could get back to within a single point.
The Vols really playing a good D.
Wouldn't go for Richardson, and Walker hands it off and says, let's take it down and relax and get a couple.
Tony White, no factor in the first half. Absolutely amazing. The conference leading scorer has not been a factor, and the Tennessee Volunteers are within 3 with 40 seconds to go.
There's a 9-second difference, Bucky, between the shot clock and the game clock. 25 on the shot clock now. Walker receives it up strong, and he snuck it over the rim, and Kenny has 14. 20 seconds remaining. Tennessee down by 5.
Tony White right here needs to take over the Stars role. He may have a hard time getting it back. That's been Davender's success. Once White has given it up, he hadn't been able to get it back.
Andrews on the slap. Now we're under 10 seconds. Griffin. That one is way off. White got the rebound. Oh, and he was fouled, but it just wouldn't go. And this place would have erupted with 1 second left with the three-point play possibility. But a key rebound for Tony White.
Well, we talked about the fact he wasn't 6'2". Somehow in a crowd, he got that one up and hit the deck hard.
Tony White shoots 86% from the line.
He's an exciting player. He has not been tonight. Kentucky has not permitted it.
It could be a three-point spread at halftime with a hoop here. See what Kentucky can do with 1 second. They let the ball roll. Now the long attempt by Davender is well short. And after 20 minutes of play, in a most erratic first half on the part of both ball clubs, Kentucky with a record of 15-1 in the SEC, leading by 3, and we'll return with our halftime activities in just a moment, including that feature on Joe Dean.
Shots. Well, there it is. 37% for the Wildcats from the floor, only 27 for the Volunteers. Rebounds, a slight edge there to the Volunteers. Both teams shooting free throws well, and that's about the only thing that you can look at with pride. And really an interesting stat, both teams have more turnovers than assists. As good as Kentucky is with the ball, only 5 assists to 10 turnovers at the half. That's a 1-to-2 ratio, and that's not their style. They didn't get to first place in the SEC playing like that. Tennessee 5 for 8, 5 assists, 8 turnovers, similar. Skywalker lives up to billing. 4 for 8, 6 for 6 from the foul line, as the Wildcats were a perfect 12 for 12.
Tony White has 6. It is the freshman Elvin Brown leading with 8, but he's on the bench with 3 fouls right now, and White has a couple. But a tough shooting night for Tony White, who has had Roger Harden and Blackman in his face all night. They've done an outstanding job of shutting down the SEC's #1 scorer. And now Kentucky, with a 3-point lead, will have the ball as we open the second half. Bob Carpenter and Bucky Waters, glad you're with us for a Thursday night of SEC basketball from Knoxville. It's our regular season finale of the SEC on USA.
No cat and mouse for the Volunteers. Right out at midcourt, pressure man for man.
This is Roger Harden for the Wildcats. Blackman had it taken away. Elvin Brown saves it. Harden back to get it, just to be safe. Maybe Elvin was trying to throw one in from about 80 feet.
He's trying to throw it all the way to the Virgin Islands.
Here's Davender. Harden on top against Griffin. Got it down deep to Walker off the glass. And the big man has 16 with a beautiful touch on that one. He's now 5 of 9 from the field.
Again, no gimmicks for the Volunteers. Straight man for man. And somebody's got their hands full trying to keep up with Skywalker.
How long will it take for Tony White to get in this game? We'll have to wait and see. Here's Richardson with a 17-footer. And that's probably the best outside shot we've seen by Tennessee all night.
Well, that's not his game out there. He's better inside. But they desperately need some offensive punch.
Harden down deep for Walker. Look out here. Down comes the chandelier as he got in behind Rob Jones, and Skywalker has 18.
Elvin Brown thought about going up and trying to reject that and thought better of it. Good thing he did. He might have lost both arms.
Griffin. Here's Richardson. Improvising with the right hand from the left side. But even with that poor shot, able to draw the foul on Winston Bennett, his 3rd.
Well, Richardson here is OOC, out of control. That's not a good shot. Bennett was just a shade late getting over there. I really believe so. Sutton got his head down. He's not real happy with the way things are going. Got a 5-point lead, and I'm sure he feels like his Cats haven't played at all. But looking at the Volunteer offense, so far the strategy has been to pack 4 people down low in a double post situation and let Tony White operate off the top of the key, and it just hasn't worked, as 1 for 8 will certainly testify. I think he needs some picks. He's a very good shooter off the dribble, but he can't back the quick Kentucky guards in where he wants to go.
4-point game, 30-26 Tennessee. We're a minute 40 into the second half. Davender for Blackman. Walker's having a war with Rob Jones right now. There's Davender with the jumper. Walker on the back of Jones.
Well,
play continues. I thought we may get a whistle there, but it's Elvin Brown controlling for Tennessee.
A couple of hairs on that permanent head of Eddie Sutton straightened out on that one.
Well, he doesn't need number 3 on Walker right now.
No, he doesn't.
Air ball, but the rebound up and in, and Anthony Richardson has 5 of his 7 here in the second half and has all of Tennessee's second half scoring. Nice move on the left baseline by Ed Davender, who averages 12 and now has 8.
Ed Davender, slight of build and quick of feet. Boy, is he playing some defensive game on White. Now watch him seal, not let him get it back.
There's Blackman with Davender, or rather with Winston Bennett, who's got the layup. And Bennett has 4. And this is the Eddie Sutton kind of game. A lot of D. Set yourself up for a few layups at the other end.
There's the matchup out front. That's been the story. Davender has blanked White. I'd call 1 for 8 a blank. Tennessee's got to do something for him.
Elvin Brown lost it. Here's Blackman again. He has 6, and we have an injured Tennessee player on the floor. Lucky by 8, their biggest lead of the game.
Purely from a strategic standpoint, that stop in the action may have helped pull the Wildcats off a little bit. They have really been on a roll. First one tonight.
Anthony Richardson continues to warm things up. He has 9.
An all NIT selection last year, as the Vols gave good evidence at the end of last season they were going to be a force this year, but it just didn't happen.
Boy, what a ball game he had against Louisville. 30 points and 7 rebounds. Blackman lost control. Tony White got a piece of it. Mark Griffin comes down with it, and we have a foul on the Wildcats.
The shift in momentum, that little stop in the action with the injury to Brown. Everybody stood around. At that juncture, Kentucky was rolling, could do no wrong.
And guess who? Winston Bennett, number 4. That'll check in Richard Madison. Bennett, the junior, will have a seat. Madison, the sophomore, is on. He's out of Northside High School in Memphis. Don't ever step up to the plate against Richard Madison either, because he throws a 90-mile-per-hour fastball. Rob Jones on a feed underneath from Richardson. It just wouldn't fall.
The Volunteers making a move back. Good dump down pass underneath. Richardson finds Jones. They're definitely penetrating. Good pass inside.
Rob got Kenny Walker off the floor, then kind of jumped into him and drew number 3 on Sky.
Volunteers pesky. Won't let the Cats get away from them.
Rob Jones has 3, so you've got Winston Bennett on the bench with 4, Walker on the floor with 3.
You know, one of the trademarks of the Don DeVoe teams has been very good defense and balanced scoring, and that's what they're getting tonight, and it hasn't happened often this year. Got 2 of the better ones.
Indiana playing tonight, trying to get back tied with Michigan atop the Big Ten. And a Walker atop the defense of Tennessee, up and over, and he has 20.
Boy, he used the outstretched fingers of Rob Jones as a sight. He just eased that ball over those hands.
You know, Bucky, the significance of that play, as we watch Rob Jones score, Kenny Walker just got his 3rd foul, and he sent a message to Tennessee. He said, hey, that doesn't bother me. I'm going to go right up over you and score, and he did.
Timidity is no way part of his game. All out.
Roger Harden has been held scoreless tonight. He dishes for Davender. Working on Tony White with a double pump. Rebound, Rob Jones, and Walker had to be careful that time. Tennessee back to within 2 with the basket here.
Look for the balls to go at Walker to try and draw that 4th.
They've got Winston Bennett sitting down with 4.
And a long time to play. 14 minutes, 45 seconds. I think it's worth a couple of trips down the floor to try to isolate Walker. Try to get that 4th.
Mark Griffin. Griffin's a 6'8" freshman out of Union City, Tennessee. Averaging 3 points a game. The Volunteer crowd is back in this one. It's a 2-point contest with 14:20 to go.
Everybody's in this one for Tennessee, but Tony White, the conference leading scorer, and that's what makes this score amazing.
Walker kicked it back outside to Madison. Almost a steal by Richardson. Anthony's had a great second half so far with 7 of his 9. Harden underneath. Walker. And he was fouled on the UK. I have a feeling he'll be majoring in the NBA, though, about a year from now.
Yeah, he's going to be a good one. He's going to play a long time. He's been an indestructible college player, and we've already seen the way he plays tonight. Throws his body around like he has a spare. He's some specimen.
At 6'8", 210. Down deep, Rob Jones working on Jenkins, and he drew the foul on him.
You know, the last time down the floor, Walker was guarding Rob Jones. Eddie Sutton made the switch, and I don't think Tennessee picked it up. I think they went at Rob Jones trying to get the 4th, not knowing that Walker had made the adjustment. Sutton may vary the defensive assignment now, so that Kentucky will have to, or that Tennessee will have to do a little rooting to find their isolation.
Boy, Rob Jones had a great junior year for Tennessee. He was number 1 in minutes, field goals, rebounding, and blocks. Also number 3 in the SEC in blocks. As a senior now, he's averaging 11 a game in his 128th appearance in the orange. And now we've got a 3-point game. Jenkins down deep for Blackman. Walker. And he was fouled by Mark Griffin.
The guy's got a pogo stick, Bob. He's a quick jumper. You know, a lot of people really have to bend those knees or take a jump. Blackman's off the iron. Skywalker back in traffic. Is he strong or what? 3 Tennessee players had a hand on that ball. He just ripped it out.
Eddie Sutton was asking for a shooting foul. Seemed to be satisfied with the official's explanation that it took place before Walker left the floor. Harden got it in just in time for Jenkins. Tennessee going man-to-man on those inbounds play, Bucky. They've given some problems to the Wildcats. A lot of teams will go zone, but they've been aggressive with the man. Jenkins.
Good execution that time by the Wildcats. Very patient. There's the man that has to get with it. Tony White, the franchise.
I think he heard you.
They cleared the floor.
But Davender refuses to listen either, because he and Blackman have done a great job on him all night.
Outstanding. But as they isolate now, be alert that the Volunteers lose their defensive balance when he penetrates that deep, and they often get caught on a fast break situation. They don't make the transition from offense back to defense.
Look at Ron Housley take on Harden. And the 6'4" sophomore from Marion, North Carolina, has his first basket of the night. 3-point game, 12:40 remaining. The biggest lead in this contest was Kentucky by 8, 3 minutes and 15 seconds into the second half. It was a 3-point game at halftime. And Cedric Jenkins has come off the bench and scored 4 quick ones.
Boy, that was a poor-looking shot. It hit the bottom of the rim, bounced up, but it went.
Yeah, but he had the right body English. Foul on Jenkins, backing in on Rob Jones. Fouls on Kentucky's big men tonight. Bennett with 4, Walker with 3, and a couple on Jenkins.
Tennessee only 2 fouls in the second half, Kentucky 5. That's an interesting stat.
That may help the Volunteers later when they're trying to make up points with the clock not running. Nice feed, and Richardson on a beautiful pass from the right side. That one came from Housley, and Anthony Richardson has 11, 9 of them since halftime in the first 8:15. Roger Harden.
Matching Harden up against bigger players has really bothered him, making his passes higher.
Blackman from 18. Walker on the rebound, but a foul before that. West.
Bob, I know it's the end of the season. I really think you need a checkup. I heard a very faint kazoo playing, but I heard no tennis balls.
And I can tell when I'm getting jobbed by the truck and the color man.
The wave is now in force, and when you hear the frenzy in here, you know why winning in this place has been like beating Dracula in Transylvania. A very difficult thing, even for the Wildcats of Kentucky.
This is Roger Harden. Kenny Walker washed it. Rob Jones on the defense. Walker on the floor, and Harden comes up with a loose ball. There's a takeaway for Rob Jones. He cut right in front of Skywalker. And the Volunteers now with a chance to make it a 1-point game. Tony White wants to do it himself. And the rebound by Jenkins kept it alive for Davender. 2-on-2. He'll wait for support.
All Tennessee needed that time was for White to finally make a move and hit.
Walker from Davender. Turnaround jump hook, the basket, and the foul.
Us won't quit.
Look at the pressure by the Cats, but now we've got 3-on-2. Jones over Jenkins. Got his own rebound. And a foul, evidently on Ed Davender.
I thought he just lost it. Eddie Sutton still cool and calm. Well, he's smiling, but it's not funny. He's got his hands full now. This Tennessee team doesn't care what place Kentucky's in or they're in. They think they can win this game.
What a big ball game Auburn won last night. While Alabama was losing to Florida, Auburn beat LSU on the road. So behind Kentucky, as Rob Jones gets his 8th point, you have a second-place tie. Alabama and Auburn both 12-5.
Another telltale sign. Rob Jones only a 50% free throw shooter, and he's stroking them pure.
He's got 9, 4 points the spread.
10:30 to go.
This is Davender against Tony White.
Tennessee played 2-3 zone in Lexington, and they're putting some kind of man-for-man on Kentucky tonight.
Davender over White, short. Rebound, Rob Jones. Walker went down, and Jones is doing the job on the defensive board.
And he never changes his expression. It's like he had a charisma bypass. No matter what happens, he's got a game face. But he's a player.
Mark Griffin, nicely done for Richardson. And the foul. Anthony Richardson's having a career second half here. He already has 11 and maybe a dozen.
That's where he belongs. That's how he made all NIT and average double figures as a sophomore. A good baseline pass. Little dribble off the knee there, wasn't bad. He's just resting his hands a little bit, getting ready to make the power move.
I wonder if some of you folks watching the replay were guessing the foul might have been on Walker. Well, it was on Jenkins in front of the shooter, not Walker behind the shooter. The three-point play opportunity is lost, but it's a two-point game, and we've got eons to go at 9:40. This is Davender from Hardin. Jenkins to the glass, but he hit it too hard. Got his own board and put it up and in. And the 6'9" sophomore has a half dozen.
Boy, big move from the bench. But Walker takes up so much concentration. Everybody's trying to keep him off the board that it opens things up for Jenkins, and he has capitalized.
Mark Griffin on top. Blackman on him. Bounce pass, it hit the foot of Kenny Walker, and it'll belong to the Volunteers.
Walker now on Richardson, and he's much more dangerous at drawing the foul. Jones not quite as active. We may see that switch back we have.
Ball hit Jenkins' foot on the way in, and then he kept it alive for Blackman.
It's like a soccer game. Everybody's trying to dribble it off their foot out there.
Well, it looked like the pass was a bounce pass right into his leg. Here's Hardin. Walker kicking it outside for Davender. Cats by 4, but the Volunteers have been fighting them all night long. Davender calls a timeout as instructed by Eddie Sutton. Home and away. The last time he missed one was New Year's Eve '68 because his wife wouldn't let him skip the party.
I'll tell you what, that's an expensive hobby he has. You better believe the travel and buying scalping tickets, because when Kentucky plays on the road, it's usually SRO.
He's in the crowd somewhere.
Still waiting for White to emerge and explode.
Well, that one fizzled. That one destructs, and Tony just can't get it down tonight. He's had people in his face all night long, but he's missed a couple open shots that he just normally hits nothing but net. Look at Hardin penetrate. Dishing to the left wing. It was touched by a Volunteer on the way out. Go Big Blue.
That's how serious it is here. That's how serious Kentucky basketball is. And that's with a 4-point lead, mind you. The Vols are finally up to 40% from the floor. And that was before those two errant shots by Tony White. They've struggled all night.
Walker up strong, but he couldn't get it to fall. A tribute to his strength that that ball even got anywhere up on the cylinder. And that was no vacation. And he's working hard here tonight.
It wasn't for Hawaii.
50-45. Cats settle for a 5-point lead. Vols with 7:45 remaining.
First miss from the line for the Cats.
Don DeVoe had an interesting quote about this game. As we have a whistle on Dyron Nix, pushing off Walker. Don DeVoe said, yeah, it's a big ball game, but it won't save our season. He said, if you win a game like this, everything's rosy for a night, but when you wake up tomorrow, you've still got the same old problems hanging around. So he's got things in perspective pretty well.
Well, he's got a young club. He's already signed 3 fine athletes one from the Bahamas. I like the way he recruits. We talked about the Virgin Islands earlier. I like to have his budget, but he has 3 fine freshmen. He's got a young team, future bright for the Volunteers.
Davender on a pass from Harden, back on top for Paul Andrews. Walker against Nix. Oh, look at the block there. Skying for that one was the freshman Elvin Brown. Obviously the injury not bothering him much. Watch the elevation on this one.
Watch the pursuit from the weak side. White jerseys coming from everywhere. Guess who? Elvin Brown, number 44, a rocket from the weak side.
Looks like Rob Jones helped out as well. And Walker is a one-man gang here. Kenny has 28, and it's a 7-point lead for for Kentucky with 7 minutes remaining.
Well, the Battle of the Stars hasn't materialized. Walker has played as advertised. Tony White has been obliterated by the blue jersey, mostly number 15, Eddie Davender.
Paul Andrews on that foul. Tony White was 1 for 8 in the first half. Bucky, he's 0 for 13 minutes in the second half with 6 points on the night, 4 of them on free throws.
He's almost 0 for February 27th.
Speaking of February, Kentucky over the last 14 years, 90-22 during money time. February, that's a percentage of 80.4%.
That's one tradition Eddie Sutton wants to continue. He really doesn't give much credence to all the others since he wasn't here, but that's one he'd like to sustain, the tournament drive.
Mark Griffin, the freshman from Union City, has 4. 5-point lead for Kentucky with 6:40 remaining, trying to go 16-1 in the conference with things wrapping up this weekend.
Tournament next weekend in Lexington, Kentucky. The last time it was played there, Alabama beat Kentucky in the finals. And Joe Dean said Alabama is the team that has the best chance of upsetting these Kentucky Wildcats playing on their home floor.
And don't forget about Auburn, considering what happened last night. Rob Jones fouling Kenny Walker on the inbounds play, his 3rd. Bucky, you know, like everybody in college basketball, when you win on the road at LSU, you have accomplished something.
Yeah, LSU is so hard to figure. Everybody waits for them to just explode and get something going on a sustained basis. Just doesn't happen.
Well, we'll get a look at Winston Bennett now. 4 fouls, 4 points. Cedric Jenkins, 3 field goals and 3 fouls as he takes a seat. Kenny Walker, every time we look up, he's at the line or sinking one from the paint.
Well, that's what happens when you play this team man for man. As we pointed out, the last time it was a zone, and with about 7 minutes to go, it was a 7-point game in Lexington. But Don DeVoe at home, where your man for man is always better, elected to come out with no gimmicks and lay their ears back and go after him. And if they'd had just a little bit of offense, it'd have been a good decision. The defense has been superb.
Walker has 30. The best ball game we've seen from him this year on USA. We had a home victory for them against Georgia, a road victory at Alabama, a vital game a couple of weeks ago, and now big things from him here in Tennessee, and Paul Andrews draws number 2. Kentucky's 24-3 record, by the way, the best mark after 27 games since they won the national championship on a team that finished 30-2. And as Bucky told us earlier, that's the last time they won here at Tennessee.
I talked to Eddie Sutton this morning at the shooting drill. I said, that's what they're going to say. You ready for that? He said, oh, no, don't lay that on me. Just because we win here doesn't mean we're going to win the national championship. I said, well, it's pure logic. Everybody understands that. He has kept his poise. He has had a marvelous first year, and he's done everything right from a public relations standpoint. Mostly he's won, and there's no substitute for that in Kentucky or anyplace else.
It's a pressure cooker of a job in Lexington. 6 points On top are the Cats with 6 minutes remaining.
Watch the Wildcats now try to milk some time, showing their expertise in the half-court game.
Roger Harden down for Winston Bennett. Loose ball off Tennessee, and Kentucky will have it. Don DeVoe knows his leading scorer has not been a factor tonight, and it's really changed dramatically some of the things he's had to do on the floor. Harden sneaks it underneath for Bennett, and the foul on Dyron Nix, and there's why many teams zone up on the inbounds play on the baseline, because when you're going one-on-one, you get open for these passes occasionally.
Dyron Nix just asleep. When you're playing man-for-man on your baseline, you've got to be super alert. And with Harden being the trigger man, putting it in bounds, if you give him the slightest crease, he'll deliver it. Superb passer.
James Blackman has returned for Kentucky, and Paul Andrews had a seat. So it's Harden, Davender, Blackman, Walker, and this man, Winston Bennett. Winston's a good free throw shooter normally, 78%.
It's going to take a little benevolence here for the Volunteers to get back in it. Either that or a Tony White explosion.
Bennett had 20 and 7 rebounds at Georgia Saturday in the victory that clinched the SEC title for Kentucky. He has 5 and 4 fouls here tonight. Alvin Brown in trouble.
The Volunteers have stopped going to Tony White.
Alvin Brown had a great first half with 8. That's his first basket of the second half.
I think that's a major decision DeVoe has made. He's no longer clearing the floor for him. They're setting no picks for him. They've sacrificed him.
Bennett too strong with it. Walker got a piece of it, but Alvin Brown. And here comes Tony White. You just wonder about his confidence level right now. Nothing wrong with that shot.
Listen to that crowd. That's what they've been waiting for. Only his second field goal.
And I was watching him running back down the floor. He was shaking the fist, but keeping it to himself. The crowd now with a 3-point game and 4:40 remaining. He might only have 8 right now, Tony White, but if he gets hot, he could be up around 14, 15 pretty soon, and a big factor in this game down the stretch.
He can get him in a blur.
Harden for Walker. And every time the Cats get in trouble, they call on their insurance policy, who now has 32. 32 of their 57.
Boy, Davender is really on him. When he scored that last basket, it was in transition. Now is when it's been difficult for White to get the ball back.
Ooh, tough pass to handle there for Richardson, who got it back on top to Alvin Brown. Here's Anthony over Walker.
That was a heave. Bad shot.
And Davender with the board. So with a basket here, Kentucky will have quieted the storm a bit that had Tennessee back to within 3. It's 5 now. Blackman for Walker, but Kenny did not break to the ball. And here comes Tony White. Don DeVoe wants a timeout. 3:36 remaining. Tennessee still kicking. The Cats still ticking by 5. USA Sports, we're here in Knoxville. Bob Carpenter and Bucky Waters. Looks like an exciting finish to our SC season is on tap with Kentucky by 5 with just better than 3.5 remaining. The Wildcats are 24-3, ranked number 5 in the nation.
In that first game in Lexington, Bob, it was a 74-57 beating by Kentucky, but Tennessee had one more field goal. They were decimated at the foul line, mostly because they were playing that perimeter game. Tonight, very definitely, the Volunteers got down inside and have created problems for a small but very good Kentucky team.
And I would assume the folks down in your part of the country are rather excited this week about Duke being number 1.
Yeah, they are, and they got by Clemson Wednesday night, and Duke and North Carolina, 1 and 2, will play on Sunday. And of course, it means nothing except in the national rankings, because they're going to have to go back next week in the tournament in Greensboro, the Atlantic Coast Conference tournament, and do it all over again.
Much the same way it'll happen here in the SEC. Kenny Walker. has been a dominant force defensively. He's on Anthony Richardson now, who's had a pretty good second half. Richardson from downtown. Rebound, Rob Jones. He has 11. Big play for Tennessee.
Here comes the full court press by the Volunteers, but it's only token.
Clock passes the 3-minute mark remaining as Harden gives it for Davender.
The Cats were going to hold it until they can deliver it to Mr. Walker. Special delivery.
Ed Davender on top for Blackman. This is Harden working against Mark Griffin.
Rob Jones, the senior. A real shootout inside. Walker and Jones.
Shot clock down to 10. Harden has not scored tonight. Now it's down to 5. Davender, Harden knows it, 21-footer. Short, tipped up strong, but missed by Blackman. And now Tennessee with a chance to get back to within 1.
They need this man right here to say, my game right now, I'm taking charge.
They've cleared out the right side of the floor for him. So here he goes, Tony White. He has 10, and with 2 minutes remaining, our buddy Joe Dean would call it a barn burner. But I think we had some kind of offensive foul after the basket on Elvin Brown, his 4th. That'll bring the Cats to the other end to shoot free throws if they make the first one.
Well, that's the enthusiasm of a freshman coming off the excitement of Tony White coming back into the offense. Good hang time. The foul problems for Kentucky early in the game, that would have been skyjacked, I guarantee you. But there are heavy foul problems out there with Bennett and Walker, so they had to be a spectator, and it went. Elvin Brown reached in, trying to come back with a quick steal.
Timeout, Tennessee. 2:04 remaining. It's a 1-point game. The Cats leading by that at the line. Fans, they've never given up against this talented Kentucky team tonight. They've battled back all night long. It's a 1-point game with 2:04 remaining.
Shooting percentages with 2:04 to go. The ball's now up to 42, which is a high. Kentucky cooling off a bit, dropping down from the 50 plateau they've maintained to 45. Rebounds, 29-27. Kentucky's advantage. Turnovers, basically even. The key right now for Kentucky is the fact they're 19 for 21 at the line. That's the difference. Field goals, dead even.
Ed Davender will be at the line when we resume here. A moment ago, he was reaching down. There he goes again. Reaching down and grabbing those socks. About the only part of a basketball player's anatomy that's still dry at this point of the ball game. Getting another grab at those socks to keep those hands dry. Davender has 9. Cats by 2.
Look at the concentration.
That's a good job.
Kentucky has 3 timeouts remaining. The Volunteers only 1.
Foul on Davender, his 3rd.
Boy, that foul they didn't need. That foul they didn't need. Sending White to the line to get his confidence. It appeared White pushed off a little bit, but as often happens, the official sees not the action, but the reaction. Here it is. We get a chance to see it again. There's the confrontation out front. Now watch White push off here. Well, we left it early.
Tony White has 11, half of his average. But he has become a factor, and that's the important thing for Tennessee. 1-point game, 1:55 remaining.
Interesting now to see if Kentucky gets tentative. They can't get tentative now. Not with this building and this Volunteer defense. They've got to attack it.
Tennessee has won 12 of the last 13 here, including 7 in a row. I wonder if that's on the mind of anybody right now other than the fans. The players with such intense concentration on the floor. They're not thinking about statistics right now and tradition. They just want to run that offense if you're Kentucky. And there's a push from behind by Mark Griffin, a rather obvious foul. He saw Davender making a beeline toward the baseline and figured he better do something about it.
Mark Griffin at 6'8" has really been amazing defensively on the perimeter. He has excellent lateral speed, which has enabled him to play the guard. Blackman this time, however, makes the turn, and with the right hand placed neatly in the small of the back, he did indeed give him a show. Oh.
How many balls do you see hit the front of the rim and then bank in off the glass?
In my neighborhood, you had to call board on those, or they didn't count.
Blackman has 7. And now Tennessee could tie things up with a basket. Important miss there because it kept it on the even rather than going to the odd 3-point lead.
They're opening the floor now.
Tony White, little long with it. Well, he took that shot, forcing it with a lot of time on the shot clock.
He's so anxious to take over, and Davender has really thwarted his very best move all night.
Mark Griffin on the fucker. Big rebound, but they stripped it right out of his hands.
Rob Jones got away with it. A gutsy move.
You know, Blackman's been short with 3 straight free throws, Bucky. He's lucky he got the first one in on his first 1-and-1. Tony White forcing again, too strong. He's just having a nightmarish evening from the field.
Well, at least the Volunteers are going with their franchise player.
Roger Harden in trouble. Got it for Davender. Now Blackman waits for it. He's open. Harden. And that's a 2-shot foul. And a poor choice by Mark Griffin because Blackman had already dumped that ball out. Although he is a poor free throw shooter, he will get to shoot 2.
Better 2 from a guy that right now has to be a little nervous at that line than a one-on-one with some of the other fine Kentucky free throw shooters. That's no problem. That's a good gamble.
Griffin fouls out, 5 points at the 27-second mark remaining.
Played very, very well. The 6'8" freshman, one of the reasons that there's justified optimism in the Volunteer basketball future.
Elvin Brown's a freshman.
You think about Fred Jenkins and what he meant to this Volunteer team, not being around in this kind of a game. DeVos had a pretty good year. Disappointing, agreed. Coming off the big NIT victory at the end of the year. 4 starters back in double figures. They'll be back.
Nyron Nix will get the call.
DeVos taking lots of time to make a substitution. All the more time for Blackman to think about it. You know, when you're hitting the front of the rim, there are a couple of theories that come to mind quickly. One is fatigue, and the other is a choke stroke. And the other is the fact he's a 58% free throw shooter. Going in.
Again short, but getting it to drop. He's 2 for 4 here in the last minute, and all 4 have hit the front of the iron.
If Sutton didn't have curly hair before this game, the way he shoots free throws using all the rim and glass will give him some.
That one way short, but a 3-point lead.
They'll foul him again. Book it. Kentucky zone 2-3, trying to force the outside shot.
Oh, a steal by Harden. Big play for Kentucky. Then he lost it off the foot of a player, got it back, and now Nix reaching in. And Roger Harden, who has not scored a point all night long, just made a very big defensive steal.
Well, in 2 games this year, at LSU and at Alabama, he hit the game-winning shot. But just as pronounced and just as critical as this steal. Kentucky went zone, which really surprised the Volunteers. Harden jumped out in the passing lane, knowing that the first instinct was to get the ball back to White. He gambled right, and now he has a chance to ice it for the Cats.
Roger Harden has a strange free throw shooting motion, but the result is what counts.
And it doesn't hit the front rim.
9 seconds remaining. Cats by 4.
2 points all night. 1 point, sorry. He does it at the opportune time.
Tony White, end to end with the layup, and they call the timeout. White has 14 with 1 second left. Kentucky evidently has won the ball game, but we'll wait and see to be sure. 62-60. Well, Bucky, I want to say at this point, it certainly has been great for me to work with you throughout the season. I've admired your work for a long time and enjoyed your commentary during the SEC season. You and Jack Rowan have helped me out quite a bit. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you, Bob. I know I speak for Jack. Been fun working with you, and we'll look forward to your telecast in the Big Ten and your baseball season, which I'm looking forward to in Houston.
Tonight's SEC game was brought to you by Ford and your local dealer, who invites you to see the 86 Ford cars in
W. Tennessee has 2 choices. One, don't let them get it in bounds and book on a 5-second violation so that they in turn would get the ball under their own basket with a second to go. What they may also do, and they should be speaking to the official as they come out, looking to draw a charge on any movement that Kentucky tries to employ to get free. So look for some Tennessee jerseys to hit the deck if there's anything close to contact. It's going to be very tough with the quickness and the smarts of the Kentucky team to deny this inbound pass, and a hard-fought victory.
Roger Harden throws it in. The game is over. Winston Bennett got away from Anthony Richardson, and Kentucky is now 25-3, 16-1 in the SEC as they continue on with their league championship and win it here tonight by a score of 62-60. Kentucky impressive on the road. That's the final score from Knoxville. 62-60 over Tennessee, and the Wildcats are now 25-3 on the year. Bob Carpenter back along with Bucky Waters. It's our swan song with the SEC this year. Kenny Walker, 32. He was amazing tonight.
Kenny Walker in the Kentucky defense, a splendid performance. When you're good on the road, your defense is good and your money players perform. We saw all of that tonight for Kentucky. A valiant effort by Tennessee. They just came up short. Don't be surprised if Tennessee pulls a surprise in the tournament in Lexington.
Yeah, they're playing awfully well right now. They gave the Wildcats all they wanted here in Knoxville tonight. Bucky, again, a pleasure to work with you throughout the season. I'd like to thank Gary Dubin and Tim Rapley, our guys in the truck throughout the SEC season here on USA. And that'll wrap things up from Knoxville as Kentucky continues on their collision course toward the NCAA as they are 25-3 now, winning this one 62-60. The executive producer of USA Sports is Jim Drake. Our producer here in Knoxville, Gary Dubin, and our associate producer is Tim Rapley. Our director, Dave Burchett, here tonight. Our assistant director, David S. Litteral. Our production coordinator is Barb Travers. Our executive in charge of production, Dick Ross. Our broadcast coordinator is Rob Correa, and our broadcast associate, Warren Schiff. That'll do it from Knoxville, where Kentucky won at 62-60 over the University of Tennessee. And college basketball 86 has been a presentation of USA Sports.
Oh, for a warm and cozy